I'm Donna Ong, I'm from Singapore, and I'm a visual artist, and I specialize in installation art, making immersive environments, and I also do sculpture as well. The driving impulse behind my work, it all starts from this childhood memory that I had. I remember just thinking to myself that I must not forget what it's like to be a child, to think of endless possibilities, to just be imaginative and just feel that the world was wide open. And I think this world of wonder, the world that you get when you get immersed in books, when you get immersed in a really great film, that was what I was hoping to recreate in my art. Landscape portraits was a response to that gap between that desire, that place, that wonderful place that you imagine, and the reality of the situation, which is you're at home. And I wasn't able to go on this trip. It was meant to be a gorgeous trip in the Red Sea and a coral diving trip. And you imagine how it might be like. And it's almost like the real thing, but there are some gaps because you've never seen the real thing. My parents used to go antique hunting every weekend. And I guess I developed that kind of aesthetics, or that kind of love for old objects, and found objects enables me to go beyond my limitations. It causes me to respond to something that is immovable. I can't change it, it's the way that it is. And I think the art becomes stronger when you have elements that it's out of your control, when there are elements that force you to go beyond your limits. Some of the items that I like to return to is glass. And glass has this interesting feel to it because it's old and it's new. You see in skyscrapers, but at the same time, you see very old pieces of glass in terms of old bottles that you can collect. And so I appreciate that kind of bridge between the old and the new. When the light goes through it, you just feel like there's something magical. Again, landscapes was something that from childhood that when I read books, I wanted to go to these places. So I think I started working with found images out of probably two things. Right now, the images that I take are from old books. And these images are something that we often don't look at anymore. Part of why I started doing these images was because, I love old paintings, I love old illustrations, and it's one way to make them new again and to bring them to a new audience. By trying to put them in a 3D environment, I'm trying to bring back life into them again and have people see them and appreciate them in a new way. How I work with these dioramas is that I find various images and I cut them up. And then I start from the distance that is furthest away from me, and then I layer them on top and I build up right to the foreground. So it's background to foreground. I find painting intimidating because you have this blank canvas, you have nothing. But I think with collage, it's always, mixing up of elements which are already nice. So you can't really go wrong with it, I think. And that for me is a joy. Initially, I was planning to do a whole series on landscape, archetypal landscapes. So it would be garden, cave, forest. But when I got into forest, it almost swallowed me up. For me, the tropical forest started when I was doing a residency in Germany. And when I went to the bookshops to look, and antique shops, I looked at all these old books and I was kind of shocked to find a lot of tropical forest images. They didn't really look like the forests I had encountered in Singapore or Indonesia. And I started being really fascinated with this idea of depictions of the tropics and of the jungle in particular. Letters from the Forest came from this wanting to understand what was the mind behind the people who went there, the explorers. They were business people, tradespeople, they were naturalists. It was that kind of sense of adventure that they had, that it was going into the unknown to bring back treasure, to bring back wealth, to bring back knowledge. These images were in a sense kind of national building for them, but it also came from their traditions of landscape, of how they saw the land, something to be conquered. There were so many layers in in the tropical landscape, the way that it was seen, what its purpose was for, what it actually was about, the people that it depicted. My experience of the tropics was first from National Geographic. So I started thinking about how these magazines are, in a way, the gatekeepers to images that we see, how the rest of the world sees the tropics. How can we depict tropical landscape in a way that's not cliched, that sheds new light on what actually it is, but also doesn't deny the past of the 18th, 19th century history that we have. At the moment, we see the tropics in maybe two ways. We see it's a tropical rainforest in terms of deforestation, environmental issues, in very hard logic, statistics. And the other way is jungle, which is a very tropical tropes, slightly derogatory. Moving forward, by researching the past, I'm hoping to think of, how we can keep some of that magic and that seduction of these images, but have something that it's more truthful, or that illuminates something that is special about what it actually is.